Hello guys, this is Roy from Rena Mini 4-Wheel Drive Club, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And for this video, I would like to show you about all different type of the rear body damper setup. So here we have some different type of the rear dampers. So I'm gonna explain to you one by one, and let's let you know what's the difference between each type of the setup. Okay, so let's start with the video. Let's go. Okay, so here we're going to talk about the single shaft type chassis, the rear damper setup. Okay, so first, of course, I'm going to see is this kind of a regular setup, like just by using the screws and tied it and put the dampers on it. So that's the original, like very basic setup. So like it's very simple, so it's easy to use as well. So that was the first one, the kind of damper setup that we are using it. Okay, and the second one will be this kind of hang damper setup, the hammer damper. Actually, this kind of damper that we can call as the hammer damper, the mass damper setup. So this one is the second type. So the compared to this one and this one is this kind of damper setup is when the car is landing, you can see the damper is on the air too, but when the chassis and the whole car is hitting on the floor, and there's a force and reverse force, so we have to cancel the impact. So this one will definitely, the damper will hit the after to balance the impact, but if the impact is more than the damper can accept, then it will release the impact again, then drop. So that's usually if you trying to check your damper how it works and the slow motion, that's usually how it works. So it's the car drop, okay, and land and hit first, and the damper will come up again and hit it. So the second time it came up is basically the force is bigger than the damper is trying to solve the impact for the first time. So the second impact, it will transfer to the damper and go up, then soft again, then drop. So it's basically how it works for this kind of a basic damper setup. And this kind of the damper setup, some people calling like ham damper setup, some people call hammer damper setup. So for me, it doesn't really matter. It just setup. So what works is like okay, let me just tie this one up, make sure it doesn't move. Okay, so this one is same idea. When this is open, then the car is flying in the air, and when it's jump and landing and hit the chassis and hit the rear brake first, and then the impact soft by reverse, this one come up, then hit it again. So this is the second type. So its first type will be absolutely this type, and the second will become this one, and then next one will be this one. So this type of I call this kind of setup is like rear body damper setup, like I mean, like, well, not lantern, those kind of rear, like, but it's still rear body damper setup for the brake. Okay, so what is this one do is basically it's a combined by this setup, and combined with this kind of a setup is two setup, like a combination is like this kind of setup. So what this one works is, if you see just this part is doing exactly same thing as this one. Okay, so this one as well, yeah, but this one as well, they can doing the same thing like this, so you can see. But like I said, they combine those two together, so which mean is when it's doing like this, and the impact is also can be solved by the movement by the dampers. So it's basically let's say this kind of damper setup already can make your car stable, and then plus both, like, put those two together become this one, then you can make your car much more stable for the back. Okay, and then next what we're gonna talk about is the tail dampers. So right now there's lots of people like to using the catcher to make us the tail damper, and the tail dampers also come with two different type. One is like this type is like basically is like easy version like this one. So all these pieces they just make it as a like a catcher, and to make it works like this one. And compare the weights, this one absolutely gonna be way lighter than this one, because you can see here is screws, and here we have to put the spacers and this connecting connectors, and this the T plate, and plus the heavy dampers. So compared to the these pieces and these pieces, is absolutely, this one is way lighter. Okay, so the first type will be those kind of setup but using the catcher. So it's basically same idea, is hitting the rear brake. Okay, and that's the first one. And the second one will be this kind, is basically installed like this, and also put the damper, then is soft. It's soft the impact by the vibrations. So the vibration will like balance, like the cancel the impact that after every time the car landing. Okay, so that's the idea about the tail damper setup. Like right now the most people are using it. Okay, but compare all this kind of a setup if I'm really facing to like a very difficult track, and you have to make your car maximum stables, then actually I would choose using this one. Okay, so that's why, right, even though right now I still keep one of this kind of setup in my tools box, just in case if I need it. So at least if when I need it, then I have options, I can use it, because this one I can see there's plates here, so I can switch if I need to make it longer or shorter. So that's why even though right now I still keep one just for myself in case I need it. Okay, so this is the tail damper setup for the single shaft motor chassis. Okay, and then next we're gonna go for the pro chassis. All right, like the MA or MS. All right, so let's go. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about the pro chassis. So for the pro chassis, if you are playing MA, so the MA setup for the rear is pretty much very similar. Basically, almost 90% are same as the single shaft motor. So basically, you can straight follow the what we just talked about. Then that way, it can help you for your MA setup. Okay, and also, but the other chassis MS, there is a little bit different, because you can see here, if you see clearly, for the MS there's a 4 mounting point. So there's only 2. Usually if you're playing MA there's only 2, but for the MS there's another mounting point right over here. So which means you can extension the maximum distance for your damper setup. Okay, so if you are playing the MA or MS, like for the MA here, still the pretty common setup usually for the MA: tail damper, hammer dampers, and the rear body dampers. So those are pretty commons for the MA chassis setup. Okay, so but for the MS it's a little bit different. So for the MS, this one absolutely, of course, it still work if you're just mounting over here. So we can all this kind of setup can all using on the MA or MS. Of course, it's including the regular basic setup as like by using just the screws and put the dampers, and that one is good for all different type, like all the type of the chassis. Okay, but for the MS over here, you can see if you want to using this kind of a hammer dampers, so what you have to do is you have to extension your arm right up to here. So you have to make using the longer screw right up to here, so like this long. Okay, like this long. Okay, because the mounting point there's also over here as well. Of course, if you want to mount over here, that's okay, but usually what I will do is I will maximum the distance for the damper arm, okay, to make sure the angles and everything is, it can makes more stable. Because remember, if you extension it longer or right over here, and when it's open, it's also adding the weights at the center, like here, this part of the chassis. So it's not just over here, so it's adding the weights on this part, so it makes the car can also the force put in the center more, so when it's landing and the weights is at the center as well, plus the body damper that you have is over here. So this like is basically push your weights to the front a little bit more, but all the hitting spot is one here, and but this one is hitting at the rear brake. So this is also an idea. If I want to using this, I will maximize like the arm up to here. Okay. And this one as well, this kind of the rear body damper setup, you can put it over here, so it works over like here. It's gonna be like this. Okay, but also I know there's some people are using like that one is make this arm longer and mounting right over here. That works too, and it's also depends on how you want to set it up, right? And it might gonna work. And also it's like I said, this is the most stable like the setup that I can set for myself. I feel this kind is very stable. Okay, so if I'm facing to like a very difficult track, this is still my best choice. If the tail damper doesn't work so very well, then I will using that one for sure. Okay, so that's the second. And next, let's talk about the tail damper for the MS. So there's two type of the tail dampers. One is like normally people can see is mounting on this point. Okay, so it's like this. Okay, and okay, but those two different. What's the difference between these two? Is this one is only mounting right over here. So all the weight, like the weight is gonna be over here, and then it's going to be like this. Okay, like it's like a fishtail. Okay, so it works pretty good, and that's why there's lots of people are using it. And but the other way, the other thing, just give you guys example, because this is what I consider this all different type of the tail damper. Then I come up this kind of a damper setup. So as you can see here, I also make the Arena logos on it, if you can see it. Let me see. Yeah, I can see also the Arena logos on it. So but there's the difference here, though. These two have the two extra pieces, and also there's a small cutting over here. So what this one works is the first of all is connecting to the here. For example, here I have another blue one, so is connecting this point, and the other two is connecting the bottom connecting spot. Okay, so the reason why I'm making this kind of setup is, if you can see, like the front I didn't do any support, so you can see if I don't do the support, the chassis can be like this. Okay, so that usually is like for the center top, this part, the gear cover part. If you cut too much or it's damaged a little bit, then it make the become loose a little bit. So how can you fix this? So that's why I put the another 2 extra pieces extension, right, mounting to this 2 rear point. So as you can see, the front is like this, okay, and but the rear, okay, you didn't see it's moving, right? Because those 2 can totally fully support the chassis, is not going backward. So this way, even though the suspension is moving, like it's working, but it doesn't even affect the chassis itself. Because at the top over here, you can, if you can see clearly, you can see here I put the plastic spacer. You can put aluminum, that's okay, but I put the spacer over here to make this pieces and spot is higher, so it make like it's mounting like this. So even though when the chassis is moving, it's like that. Okay, so it won't affect the setup, like especially the movement for the suspensions. Okay, and also at the center here, I do a cutting at the center. Here is for the people if you are using the anchor. So the mushroom head and the screw will be at the center here. It won't block the movement for your anchors. Okay, so that's the difference, and also an idea for you if you want to try this kind of tail dampers, and you could try. Okay, so this is today's video. So if you like this video and you want to see more video like this, and please like, subscribe, and share this video. And if you have any question, leave your question at the bottom, and or if you think which part or which setup the body damper you are more interested and want to know more about that, you can always contact me on the Instagram or the Facebook. I prefer Facebook better because usually the Instagram is I didn't check that much, so Facebook, that would be perfect. So you can contact me on my Facebook, then I will try to solve your problem as best as I can. Okay, so this is today's video, and thank you so much. Don't forget to press the bell, so if I have the new video, then you will know it right away. Thank you. I'll see you next time.